Hi guys, Ricky Pope here, and today on the Christian Nerds Unite podcast, I interview David Acuff, a video editor for Disney, voice actor, and writer, plus scripture and nerdy news, and we'll get to all of that right after this. 2022 is flying by so fast, and I just reviewed my goals for the year. It's not too late to set some effective goals for 2022 for yourself. And the Goal Process 101 ebook helps you do just that. With a straightforward process and practical exercises, you'll be guided to set the right goals for you and set out a plan to achieve them. Get your copy of the Goal Process 101 ebook by going to goalprocess101.com. Use CNU2022 at checkout to save 10%. Now, back to the show. Before we get into our interview and nerdy news, let's read some scripture. 1 Peter 3, 8 through 16. Finally, all of you be like-minded, be sympathetic, love one another, be compassionate and humble. Do not repay evil with evil or insult with insult. On the contrary, repay evil with blessing, because to this you were called so that you may inherit a blessing. For whoever loves life and sees good days must keep their tongue from evil, and their lips from deceitful speech. They must turn from evil and do good. They must seek peace and pursue it. For the eyes of the Lord are on the righteous, and his ears are attentive to their prayer. But the face of the Lord is against those who are evil. Who is going to harm you if you are eager to do good? But even if you should suffer for what is right, be blessed. Do not fear their threats. Do not be frightened. But in your hearts, revere Christ as Lord. Always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks you to give the reason for the hope that you have. But do this with gentleness and respect, keeping a clear conscience, so that those who speak maliciously against your good behavior in Christ may be ashamed of their slander. I pray that you'll stay positive and share the gospel with love and joy, even when the world around us seems to be beating us down. If you're looking for a natural and organic way to share the gospel with others around you, reach out to me. I'd love to chat with you about it. And now for some nerdy news. The long-rumored Marvel's Thunderbolts movie has a director, Jake Schreier, and Eric Pearson is said to be writing the script per deadline. If this film becomes a reality, we would see people like Baron Zemo, Yelena Belova, The Abomination, maybe U.S. Agent, and the Winter Soldier. If you're not familiar with the Thunderbolts, in the comics, they're a group of superpowered individuals, mostly villains and anti-heroes, recruited by the government to replace the Avengers after their assumed demise. So kind of like DC's Suicide Squad, but for Marvel. The MCU post-credit scenes with Contessa Valentina Allegra de Fontaine, played by Julie Louis-Dreyfus, has been kind of pointing us in this direction for some time, so we shall see. Director Todd Phillips has posted a photo of Joaquin Phoenix reading what appears to be a new script for a Joker sequel, with a working title called Folie à Deux, or in English, Joker Shared Madness. We don't have any more info on it than this, but if you liked Joaquin Phoenix's Joker, you should be excited about the possibilities of a sequel. These standalone DC movies have seen some of the best results for Warner Brothers, so it's no surprise that they're going to go in this direction. Last, we finally got a trailer for the new Black Adam movie. Along with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson as the title character, we get our first look at Pierce Brosnan's Dr. Fate and Aldous Hodge's Hawkman, along with some really quick glimpses of Atom Smasher and what appears to possibly be a CGI version of Red Tornado. All are original 1940s Justice Society of America characters. But the film appears to be set in the present day. It's a little unclear how this will all connect to the DCEU in any way. We expect it will connect to Shazam in some way, but the trailer does make it clear that Black Adam is not your traditional hero and is more likely to be an anti-hero in the film. I'm very excited to share with you a very special interview with David Acuff. David is a voice actor, a writer, and currently works as a video editor for Disney. David and I connected on multiple levels as believers and as fellow video editors. Let's get right into the interview. David Acuff, it is so great to have you on the Christian Nerds Unite podcast today. Welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Great to be here.
Well, a lot of my audience may not be familiar with you. So kind of give us a little bit of background of who David Acuff is and what might they have seen in the past.
David Acuff, who is this guy? Yeah, that's a good question. I've been probing that myself for years. So, I am a corporate video guy. That's been my bread and butter for the longest time. So some of your people may have seen my Pergo Floors video. That was a big hit. My What is the Baptist State Convention video was epic in Raleigh, North Carolina. So I did that for years, dance recitals and all of that kind of stuff. That was my jam. So corporate video world, but it was never like enough. So then I always wanted to get into the entertainment industry. So, from the time I was 9 years old, I went to a Baptist retreat and they're like, write down on a little piece of paper what you want to do with your life. And I said entertainment industry, not knowing what that was going to be. So, and it's been, so now I turned 50 this year. And so now that's been you do the math, that's from 9 years old to 50. That's a long time before I got to the entertainment industry. But now I'm here, I'm editing for Disney. I've got books that I've been doing. I've edited some feature films for some friends. So just got my hands in a lot of pots. So we'll cover a lot of that, I'm sure. But
awesome. Well, why don't we start with your book? You just wrote a book recently.
Yes.
And I connect with it just a little bit. I'm actually, as of this recording, in 2 days, I turn 51.
Nice.
So you and I are very close to the same age, I assume. And your book is Semi-Centurion.
That's right. Semi-Centurion, a little product shot. There it is. The tagline was, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And when you turn 50, it's like you have I wanted to look back at the first 50 years and kind of process some of this before I moved on to the next 50. It was like one of those big hurdles. So it's like, all right, we need to look back and see how we survived some of these things. And it's just a comedy, kind of a comedy memoir of just all kinds of crazy stuff that I'd gone through. Because to me, the 50 term quinquagenarian, I was just like, that sounds like a horse disease or a Menudo song. So no thanks. So I made up a whole new word for us. So semi-centurion, that sounds very powerful. So
speaking of the book, what other than just trying to get kind of a review on your life, what made you decide that this needed to be written?
Well, for one, the timing. Like when you turn 50, that's a big deal for a lot of your friends and family, and everybody wants to kind of do something for you. And I'm at a disadvantage in that I'm removed out here in California, in Los Angeles. So my family's all back in North Carolina. So there's not going to be like a big surprise party or anything like that. So I knew that this would also be an opportunity for me to be able to say, hey, here's a bit of me, a bit of our story, growing up, and now's a great time. Go out and buy this book. And so I was able to parlay that 50th, birthday in with, hey, go check out the book and read about us. Some of you are in this book, so they're buying it just to sweat it out and say, all right, what did he say? What did he say? What did he say?
What did he say about me? What did he say about me?
So it was, the timing of it was, I was like, you only get one chance to turn 50 and have people want to celebrate you. And I was like, hey, if you want to celebrate me, go write a review of the book. Even if you haven't read it, again, the book is me. So go on Amazon and write a review and say just happy birthday even. So it was just, the timing of it was perfect.
Now, I know the book has a lot of humor in it.
Yes.
Is humor kind of been part of your life over the years?
It has been, yes. Very, very much. Always to a detriment, like finding comedy in every area. Like if you can't appreciate comedy at a funeral, don't sit next to an Acuff because we're the ones like, did he just move? We're the one that's cutting up and at a funeral. So yeah, so comedy's always been a huge part of my life, especially as a military brat. You're moving around all over the place. You don't have like a home to speak of, so like a hometown or anything. So comedy just within the family was always real big. It's just a way we dealt with stuff. Again, to a detriment. So we probably need therapy, but we handled it by taking stand-up comedy courses and going up and discussing it with complete strangers. So that's good.
Comedy therapy.
Yes, exactly what it is. Exactly what it is.
Well, how did you get into video editing? I know that's been a big part of your life.
Yeah, that was one of the first things I connected with. I'm a very visual person, first of all, and I think there's just a glut of jobs out there for editors to do. So whenever I've freelanced, everywhere I've lived, editing has always been like the first job I've gotten, like the paying work, because again, recitals, dance recitals, wedding videos, marching bands, everybody needs an editor, and it's just that I've just moved up my pay rate and moved up from the beginning. So I started just out of college. I was working like interning at the Baptist State Convention in Cary, North Carolina. Mm-hmm. And so that was just doing whatever odd jobs they needed. And then he threw me some little edit work and said, hey, can you prep this? Because at that point it was, you would offline edit on DVision or Media 100. And then he would take it to Grass Valley Switcher and he would make it look pretty. So that was how. So I've been through that. I've been through Final Cut, Avid, and now pretty much it's Adobe Premiere. But even in grad school at Regent University, we were cutting on film. So I got to actually take physical film strips and cut this half-hour film, and that was just amazing to me on a movieola, just like I imagined Spielberg and those guys would be there, just in there, just. Oh, it looks great. Oh, yeah, kind of, just cutting things together. It was just amazing with glue, and it was just so tactile, and it was great. It was interesting process. Have you cut film?
I have never actually cut.
Okay.
Well, okay. So rewind a little bit. Mm-hmm. I cut some Super 8 when I was really
okay.
I was just a kid. But professionally, I've never cut film. Mm-hmm. I did cut audio that way, though.
Yeah.
I actually was an intern at a small radio station out of college.
Okay.
And I was cutting reel-to-reel tape. Mm-hmm. So, I mean,
That's exactly.
You find the mark, you slice it a certain way, and you tape it together, and then you load it onto your 8 tracks, and we... But that's a whole nother story. But I never actually cut that kind of physical film the way you're talking about. I always dreamed of what that would look like, and I couldn't ever imagine. I really got into editing just as the first made-for-home digital editor standalone editing boxes were available.
Okay. Like the video toaster or the Canopus, the little breakout box and stuff, or some of those?
Kind of. This was the first video editor I ever had. I can't remember what it was called. I didn't own it. I borrowed it.
Okay.
It was just a standalone box. It basically the size of a computer tower.
Okay.
And it only had RCA jacks on it.
Yep.
So you had to feed your video in real time.
Yes.
But it was digital. It was all digital inside the box. And you could do all the video editing inside the box. But then you had to export it back out RCA onto your camera or onto your video recorder.
That's amazing. It used to be we would have like these huge monitors, like it's shrunk down so much, which is amazing with technology. Because before we would do like these conventions, there would be a weekend convention. We would go in on a Friday. Somebody would be out with a roving camera shooting all their stuff and then getting me the footage like on Beta SP. And I'd be cutting that together all weekend. So at the end of the convention, they'd have like this 2.5 minute fun kind of a reel that they would showcase. In the beginning, I had like these 2 huge Mac monitors, like all the stuff, the decks, just everything, the breakout box. It took half a day just to get it, going. Now, I show up with my laptop.
Yes.
And I'm like, ready. And it's just way, way, way different. So I do appreciate that. Editing.
I was the digital intake for this short film behind me here.
Okay.
Sitting at a table, they were shooting all day, and they would hand me cards, and I would load them, duplicate them onto multiple discs, so that if one failed, we still had a backup.
Yes.
And then when I wasn't doing the digital intake, I was starting the edit process.
Gotcha.
So it was just me sitting there with a laptop all day long.
Yeah.
It is amazing that things like that can be done nowadays with just a simple laptop, when it used to be stacks and stacks of racks of gear to be able to do it.
Yeah, that Grass Valley room was like a $500,000 edit suite. And so now, you can graduate from college with a laptop and be in your bedroom and just doing the same stuff we were doing back then.
Absolutely.
More so. It's crazy.
It's insane. Being 50 years old, you've seen a lot over the years.
Yes. And just the process and the evolution of that. And I love that because like when you go into Final Cut and when you go to Adobe and it's like they're talking about an L cut, or they're talking about a splice or a dissolve, or they're talking about bins that you're putting it in. I was, a part of that. I physically had the film bins. I would cut them in from the reel into clips, and I would place them in the bins and label and all this kind of stuff. So all that terminology, I know where it comes from. So, you don't have to know that stuff to be an editor, but it's just, to me, it just makes it, so much more fascinating to see where this stuff came from. So
the evolution over the years is absolutely amazing.
Yes, I love it.
I remember sitting in a theater watching Star Wars the first time it came out, A New Hope. And the idea that somebody hand spliced all that film just absolutely astounds me.
It's that to me, the fact that, with the Grass Valley switcher, it was like a step back in time, because with film, it was nonlinear. You could cut the stuff, you'd take it out and kind of rearrange your scene, however you want. So they were non-linear for the longest time. And then it got to video. And for a while, they just had to lay in shot by shot by shot for the video. And then later we got back to the non-linear side. So it was even that, for them to be able to sit in those rooms and find, all right, I need this one frame. I clipped it too short. Find me this one frame and that's where all these assistant editors would come into play with, finding that one frame that they'd misplaced that they needed for Jaws or whatever it is. So it's crazy.
Since we're talking about editing, and I don't know how much of my audience is excited about this, but I love this conversation right now.
They're nerds, so we can go into the weeds if we wanted to, but that's great.
Since we're talking about editing, what has kind of been your most exciting editing project that you've gotten to be a part of?
I think when my friend Jeremiah, he was a student of mine at Campbell University when I taught there for a couple semesters, and he went on to do some cool things. But he did some. We co-wrote some feature films together, and so one of those I got to edit, and to me that was like the culmination of everything that I wanted to do, because corporate video with talking heads and B-roll, that's that's documentary style. So that's, as you know, that's a different muscle than like this narrative editing. And so just the power of, so with that project, and he gave me a lot. He was very liberal with letting me cut and trusting my intuition on the cut. So he did a director's cut, like a first pass with just by the script, 120 minutes. And then I cut that down to the 93 minutes and some bold stuff, like you cut out entire scenes. But once you start looking at it in the space of the film, it's like, we already covered all this material in a much better way in this scene. We can lose it and nobody's ever going to miss it. In fact, it hurts the film if you keep it in there. And to the degree that one of the actors in there, he was an older gentleman. He had a real tough time with his lines and memorizing and stuff like that. Well, after I got done with him, fast forward, he's like winning acting awards at, some of these film festivals. And I'm like, thank you. I'm like, you're welcome. Thank you very much.
A good editor covers a multitude of sins.
Yes. And that is so true. And the Hollywood top stars, they know this, so they try and buddy up with the editors, because they know you can make or break a performance. You can what is that? The Cutting Edge is one of my favorite documentaries. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's a just on editors and by editors and talks, and it's just, so The Cutting Edge is, and I think it's even free on YouTube. I try to watch that like once a year because it is so powerful, and you've got Spielberg talking about, Jaws, and if he showed the shark for 10 frames instead of 9 frames, it looked like a floating turd. But that one frame just made a difference and made it look real. And that kind of stuff, that is amazing. So long story there, but yeah, that was called Restoration, was our feature film. And it got picked up by Sony Home Pictures Entertainment. So it was fun to see our product on a Walmart, store shelf. So, so stuff like that. So that was probably the biggest thing that I've been a part of yet as far as an editor. So.
Very cool. Now, I know because I have researched you a little bit, I know you do some voice work as well.
Yes.
Talk to me about how you got into voice work, or is that more of something you're still trying to get more into?
Definitely trying to get more into. Voiceover everywhere, it seems like, is a very tight, close-knit community. So if you look at the credits on like a Star Wars Rebels, and you see the same names pop up
over and over again,
and all this, Steve Bloom, he's amazing. So the voice of like Cowboy Bebop and all these.
I had Katie Lee. I don't know if you're familiar with Katie Lee.
I don't think so.
Katie Lee on several months ago. She has been a prolific voice actor.
Gotcha.
And just in everything, and her long-term thing was she is one of the characters in Adventures in Odyssey.
Okay, that's amazing.
But she started out as like she was one of the actors from the 80s Dungeons and Dragons cartoon. Okay. And she's done Gummy Bears and just everything. So yeah, exactly what you're talking about. You see these actors' names in animation, and they're just prolific. They do everything.
And so I've been trying to, that's the acting that I love, is voiceover. You've got your script right there, small contained space, and it's just amazing. So in grad school, I was able to auditioned for some voices. There was one of the guys was doing Angel Wars, was an animated series that he was working on. So they were doing the pilot of it. So I went in for an audition, and that I didn't get the role that I auditioned for, but they gave me 3 other roles because they're like, I like the voice you use for that. That's this character. And oh, the voice you did, that's this. And so I ended up being able to do like 3 different voices. And
Oh, like the demon Q. Oh, Morg, you're looking fantastic today.
so it was just fun to be a part of that process. And they gave me some liberty to kind of rewrite, some lines and stuff and kind of, punch them up, I guess is the term with comedy. So it was just a great experience. So
Voice acting is something I've been trying to break into for many, many years. I absolutely love that, the voice acting process. And so recently, you actually worked with some friends of mine. You worked on the Family Camp movie, and
Yes.
you were the Beaver
yes,
of all things.
the Beeve, starring David Acuff as the Beeve. Mom is so proud. But yeah, that was a Regent for me. That was a Regent University connection. So so that's a lesson in not burning bridges with people, but building those connections. So 20 years ago at Regent University, I met Trey Reynolds. So fast forward 20 years, he's now the VP at Provident. And so he's developing a couple different films. One of them was Family Camp. So I'm sitting at home for Christmas. He's like, hey, you want to audition for my as a Beaver for my Family Camp movie? I was like, of course I do. So after my parents left, to go shopping, I'm up in the garage above the room above the garage. Just recording all this crazy stuff for him and sent it to them, and they liked it. So when I got back to Burbank, they pulled me into the Kappa Studios at their great audio booths there and audio suites. They have a lot of first-rate post-production there. So, and I laid it in. Took about an hour to lay it in, and then pandemic hit. So delays, and then 2 years later, I'm sitting in a theater. It's like, that's amazing, guys. That's and again with voiceover and some of the stuff that I do and editors, that's not usually a face-forward kind of a role. So yeah, a lot of the audience, I've done some cool projects, but a lot of the audiences, it's you're behind the scenes, but I'm loving that. So it's great.
Yeah. You get to work on some amazing things, but you may never know who I am.
Right. Exactly. And
You're the reason that mothers sit through all of the credits because there's somebody's kid is up there.
Yes. And I've always been a credit watcher myself, and now to be able to know some of the names of people in there, it's fun. So yeah, no, it's just been a blast. And I'm a huge believer in not waiting for all these opportunities to just show up on your doorstep. Like some people have a script and they're just waiting for Spielberg to come knocking, or with voiceover. How do I get into voiceover? How do I even start? Well, for me, and again, I don't care if you buy the book or not, but my first book was a sci-fi novel. I wanted to test drive the whole process. I did, so it's called Historians Proper. So I took that into the audio booth. And so I plan to do that for all of my books, is to create these audio productions off of. So then I'm practicing, for one, I'm practicing on tape, but I'm practicing getting better at my craft. I'm getting to do voices. I'm getting product out to market. Like I'm not waiting for a publisher or anything like that to come knocking. Eventually they will, but for now, I'm able to do all of this, again, test drove the Amazon process. I got it up on Amazon, paperback, the Kindle version. It's very easy to do the e-reader. And then I did the audiobook and did that through acx.com to do the audiobook. And that's just a fantastic world where people are always looking for narrators and voices for their projects. And people don't think of that. They just look at, like, again, the Star Wars Rebels or some of these, the Cowboy Bebops, these huge roles, and you're not
Yes.
going to get those out of the gate. So again, it's a chance for me to be able to get on a microphone and just practice my craft and learn how to not pop the peas, and just all these things on my own. And then I'm more marketable after that. So if anybody's out there is trying to get into that market, audiobooks is one of the
Yes.
first ways to go. So even if you haven't written anything, then there's plenty of books out there to do.
Absolutely. Audiobooks is actually where I got the majority of my audio
Yeah.
experience.
Oh, sure. That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, they're
Huge market.
they're absolutely fun until somebody tells you, you have to do this book and it's horrible.
There's that part. There's that part, and it's tough. That's a stamina thing because you're there just reading chapter after chapter.
Yes.
So it's not always the funness of like a beaver roll where I'm like trying to figure out what a chewing sound, taste, or the sniffing sounds and all that kind of stuff. It's just going hour after hour, especially on these longer books, like you're saying. And if they're horribly written, well, that's.
I worked for a small publisher, so I didn't always get to choose which book I was reading.
Gotcha.
But I did love it. It was great to be able to go spend 4 hours in a booth every day and
Nice.
and just read. Is there something new that you're working on right now that something that's you're excited about?
I've always got. I can't sit still. That's just my thing. I've always got projects working on. Obviously, so I'm a full-time editor at Disney, so that's my day job. So I'm constantly doing that during the day. But at least my nights and weekends, that's Monday through Friday, 9 to 6, and then that leaves my nights and weekends wide open. So I'm constantly writing. I'm working on a big sci-fi novel. It was actually my first book that I started 10 years ago. But, it's just taken that long because it's like, instead of being like 17,000 words, it's, 95,000 words. So it's a legit length of a novel. I just found an editor for it and got their notes back. This was the same guy that edited for The Martian, one of the earlier drafts of The Martian, because that was a self-published thing from that author before it gained traction. And then in one day he got a movie offer and a publishing deal for The Martian, and then now it's a movie with Matt Damon. So that's the story we love to hear. But so he was one of the editors on that, and so again, just getting insider notes on the editor, choosing that editor, that's huge, because I have a faith-based editor, and she's great at the faith-based, the narrative drama kind of stuff. She's great at that. She wasn't as great with the sci-fi stuff. So again, it was, you're almost casting editors depending on first your personality, who you work with, and then their knowledge base. And he's just enormously talented with the sci-fi world. So that's been great. So that's in process, but again, it's self-funded. So it just takes a while to build up the bank account and then pay this guy to do the cover, and then build up the bank account and then pay this guy to edit, and then build up the bank. So
Yeah.
it's a process.
So this is an interesting idea that maybe I'll run past you. We talked earlier about you editing a film and removing parts of it because it made the product better.
Yes.
As a writer, having an editor come to you and say, "Hey, you need to lose this."
Right.
What is that like to be on the opposite side?
Right. It can be, sometimes it can be a battle. Because obviously when you're the writer, everything you put down on paper is precious and intentional, and it is just, from God's lips to the paper. So it's just as he spoke it to you, so it's like this holy thing. So I've gone through the process enough now where I've gone through the process enough now where I know when to push back because one of the editors, she may be just telling you a particular style that's out there now that doesn't work for, and I need that all day long because I've worked in the script world and TV world, so this book world is still relatively new, and the writing and which point of view you use. So I was relying on them pretty heavily for any of that kind of advice. I get excited when they point out something, if you move this down here, like the editing stuff, what I call, the video editing stuff where you move this scene down a layer. I'm like, yeah, that's brilliant. That would actually work very much. But some of it is personal preference. So, the editor's threshold for, there's a lot of talking here, or there's a lot of exposition here. You need to break that up. So I can do that, take that paragraph. And so a lot of it, I've been like, what else, Obi-Wan? What else do I need to do, Master, to make this better? So I've been very open to their notes, first of all, but, and I'll try these things out. But there have been, as I've grown in my own narrative voice, I know where to push back on and say, I know that's how all these people do it, but I'm going to try it this way just because, I just got to go with my gut on this part of it. But yeah, no, it's a push and a pull. And I think that's why self-edited books are so hard. And with self-publishing, that's why so many of those books are so not so great. Like the indie publish and you get a lot of not great stuff out there because it hasn't gone through that pushing and pulling with an editor, and you kind of need that, at least some other person in your life that's telling you some hard things about your story. And it's like, that character didn't really make sense, or this person disappeared and never showed back up again. It's like, yeah, that's I was saving it for the sequel. Yeah, that's it. So yeah. Trusting, building that relationship with an editor is super important. And again, that's why directors on the films that they have, like Spielberg's had the same editor, for years. Clint Eastwood has the same editor that he's had for the last 20 films, because you develop that shorthand, that trust. They know what you're looking for, and so that is very important. Finding a good editor, whether it's film and video or whether it's book editing, it's vital. So
you do a little bit of everything.
Yes. But that's a problem for like us creatives. You dabble so much in so many things.
Yes.
You tend not to get really good at one thing. And when I came out to LA, it's like, all right, I need to put everything aside, because my business card was, that long.
Yes.
Writer, director, editor, audio. It's like, all right, I'm an editor. And just approach people when they meet you at a party or they meet you, at some networking event. It's like, I'm an editor, and that they know to connect you with editing, keeping their eyes open for editing things. So you've really got to focus down. And then once I got that bread and butter covered, I've got my job, I'm editing, I'm good, then I can kind of continue dabbling in the other things. But so many creatives just sit there and do nothing because they get a little bit further with this one, and they're like, it's like ADD. You move over to this one, and they never finish anything because they're always, once it gets hard, they're on to the next process. So, how about, have you written some stuff? Or are you in the writing process? Or
I have tried to write. I am not a writer. I have accepted that fact in my life.
That's fine. That's
I
fine.
have accepted that fact in my life, and that's just the way I am. I am entirely too pedantic, and I'm too matter of fact. My writing style is too straightforward. It doesn't. It's not interesting. Now, give me a technical. I can write you a technical manual.
Right.
I'm not going to write a novel.
Right.
Okay. It's just not going to happen.
That's right. No, well, that's been interesting with some of these, like The Martian, because he approached that from a very technical kind of a standpoint, and so he got really down into the nitty gritty of some of that stuff, which was kind of fun and interesting to read. But yeah. No, to me, trying out all those different things, you need to do that.
Yes.
I had 5 years before I went to grad school, and I knew by then I just wanted to concentrate on directing and editing. I took as many writing courses as I could, but directing and editing was what I was going to grad school to do. And that's what I did. Because I had tried audio, I'd done all these different things. So I knew this is fun, but not for me long term. And other people found the same thing. Everybody in grad school wants to be, like in film school, wants to be the director, producer, the actor, the writer. Those like 4 positions and there's all these other jobs available. You get out to LA, and there's all these other jobs, whether it's publicists or people that are doing campaigns just for like Oscar campaigns. That's somebody's job just to be able to bolster the buzz around town around this project. Makeup is the same way out here. It's not just I do makeup, but it's like, oh, I only do zombie makeup. I do, like period makeup for the 1800s, or I do makeup for. So it's very specialized. So that phrase, the jack of all trades and master of none. To me, that was actually a mistake. It was because it was supposed to be jack of all trades, but master of one. So it changes the whole meaning. Do try a lot of things, but make sure that you're the best at 1 or 2 of those things. So for me, I'm the strongest editor. That's my main thing. I'm a strong writer, and then if I can augment with some voiceover stuff and kind of build that up, those are like the three areas where I could just camp out there for the next 50 years and be very happy. As a storyteller, because I'm writing and then voicing and then, doing all this, so cutting it together. So you kind of have to be a one-man band when you're starting though. So it's tough.
Yeah. It is. It's an interesting life being a video producer of any sort.
Yes. Agreed.
So David, I know you're working at Disney. You're a believer and working in Hollywood. You're out in California.
Yes.
You're living the dream of working in the industry, quote unquote, industry. Mm-hmm. What is it like being a believer working in the industry for you?
For me, and this was an interesting concept that I learned as a producer editor for the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association. They had a program for youth that was called Dare to be a Daniel. So just like yours with the tools video and how-to video, we did a lot of videos for this Dare to be a Daniel. But the whole message of that was, Daniel in the Bible was not from Babylon, but, they got captured and moved over there. So him and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, whatever their real names were, but, they all got placed there in this world that's not very familiar to them. And their task was not to change every single person that they came in contact with. Their task was to, remain true to who they were, as the Jewish nation with the prayers so many times a day and with the things that they were eating and the things that they were, the way they talked and stuff like that. Their one goal, their one job from God was to just keep doing that stuff, inside of that very different world. And so I've used that a lot because the morality, the bars, the measurements that they use for, what's good TV, what's bad TV, what they want to see more of. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, we need to see more threesomes on TV. I'm like, do we though? Do we? But they're constantly trying to push the lines. And so again, my job is not to be up there like, what are you doing? My job is to do my job as good as possible to make other people, look better at their job. So that's whatever boss that I have, that's my whole thing is, I'm trying to take their headaches away. So whatever their stuff is, I'm trying to relieve their headaches and make them look better. By being good myself. And I think that's what Daniel did. And he just kept getting promoted and promoted and promoted. And so we have different people in the industry that we see, like the Ralph Winters, the strong Christian individuals who have worked on X-Men and Wolverine and just all these great, that's where I want to be, is strong in my faith and helping out with these amazing, big, huge projects, which I've always sat back on the theater side and just watched these things. I want to be a part of those. And I want to be a part, not just because I'm a number or I meet some certain requirement, but that I'm so good that they couldn't ignore. It's like, oh, hey, if you need this edited correctly, you need to call that David Acuff kid, because he's that 50-year-old kid. Yeah, you need to call that kid. But so that's been my goal, and it's tough. You find other Christians in this area, and there's an onslaught of again just it's a different world out here. But again, you're kind of staying prayed up, and I would have been very different coming out here at 19 or 20. I came out here at 42 years old. So that's a very different David Acuff than would have been out here younger. I've been, oh, that's amazing. Oh, that's amazing. This is cool. Now it's, I know who I am, and I know, I have no doubts about who God is. And actually, one of my coworkers, he was not a Christian, but he was asking me, is it harder to be a Christian out here? And I was like, actually, for me, it's easier, because all the things I know to be true, it's being supported with what I'm seeing, like people's bad decisions that they're making that are spinning them out, and me, I've got this, this Christian foundation, this rock, that's very, it's almost like an unfair Christian advantage that you have. And it's just built my faith stronger to be out here doing what I do. And so, and again, people are very, they'll embrace a lot of it. Like they'll embrace every faith, just as long as you're not in their face about your particular one. They'll like, yeah, sure. Oh, he's a Christian. Oh, sure. Bring him in. Yeah, no problem. And when I first got out here, I was afraid of putting some of those things on my resume, like Billy Graham Evangelistic Association. But this was cool. So I was like, so should I put that on my resume? I was like, all right, I'm just going to leave it on there. And then the guy that finally hired me at Disney, he was like, that was a good thing for him. Even though he wasn't a Christian, he was like, all right, this guy's got some morals and principles. And he saw that it was the Billy Graham thing. And his parents had a good reaction with Billy Graham back in the day. So that was a positive for him. So some of these things that I was tempted to hide on my resume, that actually helped me in the end get in. So you just never know. And, with that particular person, he was also an Air Force brat. I'm an Air Force brat. His dad was in the, Air Force. My dad was in the Air Force. We were both from the North Carolina area. So we just had all these connecting points, and that I couldn't have looked around Hollywood and found any other place where he existed in that form that we would have had that connection. But the Lord moved me right into Disney through a temp job. So I'm just there doing Excel spreadsheets in the beginning. After 20 years of production, I'm starting at the bottom, doing Excel spreadsheets. I was like, well, if they want Excel spreadsheets, I'm going to give them the best damn Excel spreadsheets they've ever seen. That was my mentality. It's like, all right, I don't care that I'm 20 years older than everybody. It's like, put me in the game, coach, put me in the game. And again, just that relationship with him, you could have asked for a better connection. And then that got me into the building. So it was, yeah. So stick close to God, because as an agent, he's awesome. He is awesome. As an agent and a manager, he is opening doors. I've been a beaver now. That's, a total God thing. Working at Disney, that's a total God thing. So I don't know. It's been exciting. So
Great word. Thanks for sharing that.
Sure.
It has been a joy having you on. If people want to follow you, where can they find you?
I've been able to get David Acuff on most of the socials. So whether it's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all those platforms. TikTok, I was a little late to TikTok, so I'm the David Acuff there. But of course, I've got my website is davidacuff.com. And so I've got, just a bunch of updates on stuff that I've got regularly, going on. So
Awesome.
It's a huge world out there, man. There's a lot to explore. So I'm excited.
Absolutely. And I'll put links down in the show notes to some of those things for those who want to follow.
Sure.
Well, David, it has been a joy having you on the show today.
A pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you so much. This is a great ministry that you have. I look forward to supporting it in the future too. This is amazing.
Thanks so much. It was great getting to know David. Check out the links in the show notes below to connect with him and hear more from David. I also hope you'll check out the bonus episodes we're releasing on Fridays periodically over the summer. I'm joined by the hosts of The Reverend and the Reprobate, Lucas Pinkard and Dan Gibson, the host of Fangirling Over Jesus, Ashley Cox, the host of the Speaking Nerdy podcast, Mike Schilling, and the great BB Nate from the Tatooine Sons podcast. And as we do these actual plays of the Marvel Multiverse role-playing game playtest, check out the bonus episodes and each of their podcasts for lots of fun and inspiration. And I am planning on dropping a new episode this week on Friday. Well, that's all I have for you today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, click, share, click all those buttons down below. We appreciate it. And that way you'll be able to keep up with us. And every time we put out new content, you'll be notified. And you can find all of our social links, our links to our YouTube channel, as well as our online store at ChristianNerdsUnite.com. I do want to take a moment to encourage you to join us as a supporter on Patreon. We've changed all of our Patreon levels, and every level has great benefits. It makes a huge difference in the ministry we're able to do. Supporters will be able to hear exclusive stories of believers we're serving around the world. To check it out or to partner with us, go to patreon.com/ChristianNerdsUnite or ChristianNerdsUnite.com and click on the support menu. And while I'm at it, I do want to thank our current Patreon supporters, Sim, Peter, Joe, Jared, and our newest supporter, Ryan. We really appreciate it. Thanks so much for your support. You are really making a difference. Before you go, I do want to leave you with this blessing from Romans 15. May the God who gives endurance and encouragement give you the same attitude of mind toward each other that Christ had, so that with one mind, one voice, you may glorify the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. We'll see you next week. Blessings.